next we are going to move on to talk about how to put in some lights that aren't in a grid. So we talked about how to convert lights to something else. Well, let's talk about floor lights or booms. So lights that are coming from the floor area and not necessarily the grid. So I'm going to put a light on a boom. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but I'm going to show you one technique of creating a boom. If I was just hanging a regular pipe, there is a truss here next to my spotlight. There's a truss tool where I can insert a lighting pipe. Well, that's great if pipes are hanging horizontally, but if they're kind of coming from the ground going up, it's a little bit more problematic. There's other things that you could use, but I want to show you a technique that I like using is to actually draw a pipe and have it extrude up. So to do that, I'm going to come back to my lighting plot layer to make sure I'm on it. But I want to kind of turn off the grid for right now because we don't have the lights up in the grid. And in this wing here, I'm going to put in a boom. So to do that, I'm going to use the circle. So I'm looking down on a pipe. So how big is the pipe? Well, the pipes are actually 2 inches. So if I hit the tab button, I can go into the little pop-up box and put 2 inches to make that the diameter. Click again, and it's set. So now if you remember how you extrude, it's Control E or on a Mac Command E. And then I extrude that up to a height that I want. So let's make our booms 10 feet, let's say. Okay. So now I've got it extruded. How do I know it's extruded? Well, I could use my little flyover tool and see that I've got a pipe kind of up there. Beautiful, right? Okay. So now to go back to my top view, it's my views top plan over here. So I've got that. So now I need to say that that is an area where we can hang lights. So to do that, with it highlighted, I go into Spotlight, Object Conversion, and now instead of Convert to Instrument, I'm going to convert to a hanging position. So now this pops it up, convert the object, sure, okay, yep. Give it a position. Well, I'm going to call this boom 1, let's say, because I might have more booms. And hit OK, and then I want to use geometry, and boom, no pun intended, it's called boom 1 as its location number. If I find that that's kind of in my way, I can move that over to a different location because I want to have a light hanging off the side here. So my next thing now, I want to hang a light there. So I'm going to go back into Spotlight. I'm going to pick a lighting instrument. I'm going to not hang a triangle, so I want to change the instrument symbol to something else. Now, I should have been saving things to favorites. That's something that you guys should learn how to do, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But let's pick an ETC color source, say 50 degree. For this particular one, or 50 degree might be a little bit too wide of a spread. So let's just go into the color source and see what we've got here, because it's going to be an LED light. Maybe I'll pop in, say, a 19 degree. So it's going to be a 19 degree light. And that should change my symbol, hopefully. Is that going to change? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to drop it here. Use the existing one, yeah. So there's my color source light, and I want to move that over on top of the boom. But how do I know it's actually there and not up in the air? Well, I've got to change my view for that. So I'm going to come back. The other thing that you can see is that with that light on it, it knows its position is boom 1. You see, if I'm kind of floating in space, it doesn't know where it's going to go. Well, it still thinks it's on boom 1 because that's where it was. But I want to give it a height. So I'm going to now kind of change my view to see where this is going. Oh, I think I dropped a triangle there by mistake. I'll have to get rid of that. So I'm just going to get rid of my masking and a couple other things here so I can take a look at things from a front view. So I'm going to change my view to the front. And then I can see I've got my light hanging there. Oh, get out of the way, resource browser. So with it, it's pointing straight down. It's kind of annoying, but I know where it is, and I, in the lighting hang, can change it. But if you really want to change it, I can change the rotation to the left 90 degrees, and then it's kind of hanging like that. There we go. And it's hanging on the boom pipe that I want. Oh, I've got some other things in the way that you can't really, if I turn off these layers, I think you'll be able to see it better. What else is on there? Probably my walls and doors and things. But you can see that it's hanging on this vertical pipe right there. So if I want to change the height of it, well, I can come up to the object information and change the height over here. So let's say I want to hang this, well, maybe I want this at maybe 6 feet or 5 feet high to catch the actor's eyeballs. So I can change the height there. So if this was a floor float, that's where I would have a very, very small boom and have my light just down at the bottom as like kind of a shin buster, as they're called. So now I'm going to come back to my top plan view and give this some more information. Turn on some other layers here so that we can see what we're working with, and there we go. All this kind of detailed stuff. So with that light selected, I want to double click on it, and I'm going to give it some more information. So I'm going to make this, say, channel 43. Doesn't need a dimmer, but it does need a DMX address, and I forgot what last one I ended on, but I know that 200 is free. I can give it a color if I want. Let's select a color. Let's make this a kind of a blue thing. And the purpose, I'm going to call this a side light special, so that I know it's something else. And it needs a focus position, so I need to know where I'm actually focusing this to. So maybe this is actually going to a new focus position. So let's just come into my set, and let's say I want this to be a special for someone sitting on this cube over here. So I'm going to create a new focus point for that particular cube. And I'm going to call this focus position 7, or I think I can actually call it cube. And maybe I want a different focal height. So maybe it's for someone sitting actually at, say, 3 feet. And I can put it there. And so now I've got a focus position for the cube. And so now I can come back into my light here. And if I double click on it, I can go up into focus and put it on the focus cube. Now, why am I doing that? Well, in the light information here, I can actually see where my beam is going. And to do that, I can go into the light information tab, so the one over, and I can actually draw my beam. You can draw your beam as a 3D solid, which just makes more lines, or I can just draw the beam. And I want to change the beam to the fall off, focus and fall off point. So it'll show me not only where it's going, but where it's focused to, but where it will go. So if I hit OK, oh, sorry, my phone's ringing there. I can actually see where that beam is going. So you can see that that's hitting the focus point. The middle of the beam is the hot spot. So you want to see some cool stuff? Check this out. So double click on the light again, go over one more to the shutters, and I actually can change the shutter angle and shutter depth of each of my lights. So let's say I got my left shutter in, I got my right shutter in, and I got my bottom in and my top one in, and I can make a very kind of tight, and I could change the angle if I wanted to, that sort of stuff, stuff like that. So, and then hit the OK button, boom, and then I can actually focus it to that area there, which is pretty darn cool. Oh, one thing you'll see, I've got this giant oval appearing around. If you remember from the previous one, I can change the focus point shape to the kind of the standard hybrid. That's almost better to have it as, especially in this position. So the reason why I brought up those beam angles is so that you can kind of see where your lights are hitting and what they're hitting in. So to do this, you can check it two ways. You want to check it in your plan view, but you also really want to check it in your section view. So here I'm going to just turn this one off for right now. So I'm going to come back into this and go into light information and uncheck draw beam, because you really don't want to have all these beams all over the place. But what I want to do is to check the beam angle of, say, what's a good one to show you? Oh, this would be a good one. So this backlight here. So I'm going to area 6 back here. I'm going to light information, draw my beam. Oh, I need to give it a focus. That should go to focus number 6. Should have done that before. And I'm going to show the beam here at the focus and fall off because I want it to not just stop in the air. So you can see where it's all going, which is good. But notice how I've got a wall here. So the light is actually going to be prohibited from hitting there with the wall. So if I go into my section view, so if I go into a view of this, say from the right side of the stage, I can see that this beam is actually going to be hitting the wall there. Now, in future classes, if you take the sound and lighting class, we actually do some rendering. So it would actually draw the light, and you would see the light being cut off by the wall there. But here you just have to kind of think about it. It's like, okay, so that wall is kind of in my way. So now I may want to change my position of that and move maybe not only my focus point, so if I move my light and my focus point. So right now I can't move my focus point because it's graying the other ones there. So I would have to go to my focus point layer, which they should be on a separate layer, which I can show you how to do in a sec, and move them. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to turn off this beam for right now because that's a big spread, but you can see where I can use the shutters to shutter it off of the sides there so it's not spilling into the side. So to turn off the beam, double click, go into the light information, turn off draw beam. So there's two things that I wanted to show you here. One, putting your focus positions on a separate layer from your plot. So I'm just going to highlight all of those guys. And I'll even grab the one on the cube, because they should really be on a separate layer. Everything should have its own kind of layer depending on where it is. So you can see right here on the object info, it's on the lighting plot. If you click on that, I can create a new design layer, and that creates a new lighting design layer where I can put in focus positions. Focus positions. And hit OK. And now those guys created a new layer, and they're all on the focus position. And so now they're grayed out because I've got the gray and snap others. So they're kind of out of my way. But now let's just say I want to work on those focus positions. I can go to this and grab the one that I want to move. And let's say, because a house plot is one thing, but when you're working with a design of a set, your focus positions are kind of changing. They're not kind of standard. So here, maybe I want to have this one a little bit more over here. And let's say, well, no one's off the deck. Let's say they're kind of over here and over here. And maybe that one's the only one that's off the deck. So now if you're modifying a house plot, you have to kind of move your lights according to where you actually have your, where they need to go. So, so for example, this area 1 here, oh, I moved the cube, the little blue dot by mistake. That's one thing that always seems to happen to me. You want to move the whole light. There we go.